Caution, this video contains flashing imagery.
Rise from your grave.
In 1988, the mighty Sega released the ancient Greek-themed beat-em-up Altered Beast to arcades. In this game, Zeus's daughter Athena has been kidnapped by the nefarious Neph, and it's up to you, a dead guy, to go and save her. So you must rise from your grave, traverse through a graveyard, underground caves and the realms of the netherworld, kicking zombies in the shins and punching ghouls in the dick until you save the girl. To help you on your way, you can pick up these things that look a bit like Sega Saturn logos. These make your muscles bulge so much that you literally become too sexy for your shirt.
So maybe Right Said Fred were onto something.
Pick up 3 of these bad boys and boom! Beast mode! Now you gain extra strength and abilities to help you rip Neph a new one.
Rise from your grave.
As I'm sure you're aware, this game didn't stay in the arcades. The game was released as a launch title for the Sega Mega Drive, which is the port that I'm most familiar with and grew up playing, and it's a game that I'm rather fond of. The game was also ported to other systems including the Sega Master System, the Commodore 64, the Amstrad CPC, the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, MSX, MS-DOS, Amiga, Atari ST, PC Engine CD, and the Nintendo Entertainment System? Well, for its Japanese counterpart, the Famicom at least.
A Sega game? On a Nintendo console? All the way back then? Really?
Altered Beast was released on the Famicom in 1990. This isn't some dodgy bootleg game like those weird Sonic Jam 6 cartridges. This was officially licensed by Sega. It's quite surprising that Sega would release a game on a rival console during the whole Genesis does what Nintendon't era, but that's exactly what happened. And this wasn't the only time either. In Japan, the Sega arcade games Afterburner 2, Fantasy Zone 1 and 2, Space Harrier, and Alien Syndrome all received officially licensed ports to Nintendo's console. 4 of those 5 games were developed by Sunsoft and came in these nice snazzy shiny boxes. The Space Harrier port was handled by Takara, and this version of Altered Beast was developed by Asmik. This game may not have a snazzy shiny box, but it does have this tiger's face, so that more than makes up for it. North America also received 4 Sega sanctioned ports to the Nintendo Entertainment System, courtesy of Atari Games' home division, Tengen. These games were Afterburner 2, Alien Syndrome, Shinobi and Fantasy Zone. The ports of Afterburner 2 and Alien Syndrome were licensed ports of the Sunsoft versions, with a few minor changes. The Shinobi and Fantasy Zone ports were completely original.
So let's see how Altered Beast handles on the Famicom.
Unfortunately, there's no Rise from your grave voice at the start, which is a bit of a disappointment seeing how it is such a huge part of the Altered Beast experience. The first thing that you'll probably notice is that a good chunk of the screen is taken up by the HUD at the bottom. This is unnecessarily huge. Could they really not have made that smaller and used more of the screen for, I don't know, the actual game? The HUD tells you how much health you have left, the stage number, and how many lives you have. The lives are represented by the faces of the transformations for each stage. Most of the time they look nothing like what they're supposed to. Apparently these things that look like cute little kitty cats are actually werewolves.
So apparently these pugs are actually bears, and these here are not the faces of the fearsome were hamster, but actually The were tiger? Yeah, sure. Tigers look just like that.
The actual transformations themselves generally look a lot better, apart from the were tiger, which just looks like some kind of cheesy poop monster. And the were bear, what colour do you think that is? Brown like how it is in the Mega Drive version? White like a polar bear? Black like a sun bear? Nope, they went with bright green. Bright frickin' green. For a bear. Yes, I know it was probably to help it stand out against the background, and the Player 2 bear was like a greeny blue colour in the Mega Drive version, but it still looks a bit silly. And if you're wondering what colour they chose for the Player 2 sprite, well, you're gonna be disappointed. This version doesn't include any multiplayer at all. It's an entirely one-person experience, just like Ben Shapiro's Sex Life, and the Master System version. This is probably the biggest problem that this version has in my opinion. Altered Beast is always best when played with another person. However, this version does include some things that even the arcade original lack. 3 additional stages and 3 additional transformations. We have this forest stage where you can become the mighty werelion. His powers are kind of like a mix of the bear and tiger forms. You've got that Sonic the Hedgehog style somersault attack and an energy ball thing. He also looks like he could be one of the Thundercats, so that's a plus. The boss of this stage is the top bit of a bright red pig man. The guy's really not too tough, he just lobs fireballs into the air and they usually don't even hit the ground. You can just stay at the back and throw energy balls till he dies. There's a sweet spot you can get into to completely cheese this boss. Just stand here punching his fist and it would destroy the fireballs before you can even throw them. They've added an underwater level here too, but thankfully you still move at the same speed you do in all other levels.
So this automatically makes it one of the best water levels in all of video gaming history. So at least you don't have to fanny about with those iron boots constantly.
Get all of your power-ups and you become a shark. Not some kind of anthropomorphic were-shark thing that would get Vin Diesel excited, but just a normal shark. You have a pretty useless tail slap attack, and a bubble projectile. The octopus boss is one of the toughest ones in the game because he has such a narrow weak spot. You've got to shoot him just at the right point in the armpit. Just a pixel too high or too low and it does nothing.
The third exclusive stage is a volcanic hellscape sort of place. To get you through this, you can transform into the Were Phoenix. This is basically just the wolf transformation, but with wings. So that makes it pretty damn awesome. This is quite a tough stage and I was really struggling to get through it. But then I got that transformation and it was so satisfying to just tear through enemies after having my arse handed to me so many times. The boss of this stage is some kind of horrible, tumorous, purple demonic abomination. He'll throw goop at you and summon lightning to strike you out of the sky. Unfortunately, your attacks have a bit of a cooldown time. It's not long, just a fraction of a second, but it is enough to stop you from dodging the lightning. Because of this, it can feel like the boss is a bit unfair, and sometimes it just feels like pure luck as to whether or not you can dodge the lightning.
The 5 classic stages that you'll know from the arcade or Mega Drive versions are all here too, including the bear level that was missing in the Master System version. These stages are all pretty similar to how they are in the more famous versions, but there are a few major differences, other than the obvious graphical differences of course. One such change is that the lightning force field attack that the dragon usually has is gone, and it's replaced with this pathetic little kick thing that kind of makes it look like he's trying to advertise a range of leg shavers. It also means that you can't just cheese the eyeball boss in a couple of seconds like you could in the Mega Drive one. Another big change is the last boss. Neff's Rhino form is usually a real challenge, but here it's one of the easiest bosses in the game. All you have to do is double jump when he puts his arm back and fire your projectile. Rinse and repeat until you win. Generally, this game controls pretty well. The only issue is that it's up to jump, which isn't ideal. It is, however, better than having to push both face buttons simultaneously to jump like in the Master System version. I know the Famicom controller only has two main action buttons, which are both used for attacks, so it's not really the game's fault. Sound-wise, the original Altered Beast wasn't particularly special. The music and sound effects did the job, but not a bit more. The Famicom sound chip does a decent enough job playing those tunes, it's just that those tunes weren't particularly spectacular in the first place. There is one exception to this. The music that plays over the end credits really shines on the Famicom and, in my opinion, sounds a lot better than it did on the arcade or Mega Drive versions. Here, have a listen for yourself. Here's the arcade version. And now the Mega Drive version. And now that pretty damn sweet Famicom version. Graphically, this game is pretty average for the system on the most part, although the bosses do look quite nice as they're big and highly detailed. This game does have a few graphical issues, however. Firstly, there is the aforementioned cheesy poop monster Tiger Man. Secondly, the graphics did make me feel a little bit ill. The ground on the dragon level made me feel a bit queasy, a dithering mess of white, blue and turquoise which doesn't scroll too well at all. There are not many games that make me feel ill, but this did it. But that's not the worst thing. You know how in the arcade and Mega Drive versions you get those cool cutscenes when you transform that show you going from man to beast? Well, they're gone in this version. And what they've been replaced with is pretty damn horrendous. If you're sensitive to flashing imagery, please look away now. I'm not messing around. This is pretty horrific. So you ready for it? Well, here you go. What were they thinking with this? Honestly, it blows my mind to think that these people that would have developed this game looked at that and thought, yeah, that's a good thing to have when you transform, so much better than those cool cutscenes that you get on the arcade version. No, who wants to see the face of the hero transform into the werewolf or whatever? No, what they want is flashing frames of white and the normal screen colour. It's like a ballistic missile of pure hatred being thrown from the god of destruction from a cloud of chaos. And it's thrown to pierce straight through your cornea, into your retina, to explode in your macula densa, to send shockwaves that emanate through your brain, just exploding every synapse to give you a migraine. Or worse. Okay, maybe a slight exaggeration, but that's pretty bad and could easily make a few people ill, so yeah. It's a bit shite. I've played pretty much every version of Altered Beast, and there's a lot of them. And you better believe that's going right on my CV. This version is actually one of the better versions, believe it or not. It's a heck of a lot better than that half-arsed port that Sega did themselves to their own 8-bit console. That version was a jerky mess with weird colours and an entire level just gone. This version controls relatively well. All the stages and transformations from the arcade are here, as well as a few new ones too. Nintendo's 8-bit console handles the usually unremarkable soundtrack perfectly fine, and makes a version of the end theme that's far better than the original in my opinion. This is still very much an Altered Beast experience, so if you don't like the arcade or Mega Drive versions, then you're probably not going to enjoy this either. Those bad graphical issues, the lack of iconic voice samples, and the absence of multiplayer prevent this from becoming a definitive Altered Beast game. But if you're already a fan of Altered Beast, and would like to try it in a way that's a bit different to what you're used to, then I'd recommend giving this one a shot. So thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. So please share, comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Punch that bell icon so you get notifications every time I upload a video, because let's face it, you ain't gonna want to miss that. I'd like to give a humongous thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, and an extra big thank you to those who support me from the power up tier and above. Those wonderful people are Stuart Christopher Brownlee, Magnus Wurzane, Eddie, House of the Ted, Carl Deacon, Taito Adol 3 and AB Silvera aka Fuchsia. Thank you all again, and until next time,